Oh yeah,
Rob's Arcade,
that's it.
where the games get played and the games get saved so they can be played on another day. Rob's Arcade.
It's just so perfect. It just fits so well. It's just too crazy. Although this is what it looks like yesterday. Not going to do that again. Um, the weather outside right now here is like what it was like, kind of like yesterday in the beginning of the week. We'll jump into some of that as we get more into this episode. But I want to thank everybody for hanging in, tubing out with me today. It's actually uh, hump day here, Wednesday, and just thought I would shoot a little video here to kind of get us through the week. And then to follow up a little bit, I was talking about maybe doing a follow up video. I did some content over the weekend, and I never uh, got around to getting it uploaded on Monday or even doing like a follow up video for that, which was kind of what I intended to do. And in fact, now that it's been since I think like Saturday since I did any recording, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember everything I got into in that video. Um, I'm gonna try to uh, recap a little bit, but yeah, a little tricky. I can't quite remember everything from the other day, and I wanted to kind of like jump right back into kind of like a follow up the next day or um, maybe on Monday or something like that. But my day off just kind of got away from me on Monday. It was a good day off. I had a really great day, especially after, like I said, Saturday having that incident with that guy. But all in all, everything is, everything's beautiful. I can't complain. And in fact, I think there's even something to be said. And I kind of mentioned this. I had a meeting with my supervisor yesterday and was kind of talking with her about everything that went down. And she felt so bad. She was like, "Robert, why didn't you call me?" And why? And I was like, "No, everything's cool. I'm good." And she was also super happy. Like, not to say that this sounds kind of bad, but it's kind of like, "I'm glad this happened to you and not somebody else, but not so much because I deserve it, no, but only because like just the way I was able to compose myself." She was like, "Robert, you handled that beautifully. The fact that you're able just to kind of like step away from the situation, kind of remove yourself, call somebody else to kind of assist, get that taken care of." Um, she was like, "You did that amazingly." She goes, "I don't think that I would have handled it that well, you know." So she was like, "Kudos to you." She's like, "I don't think your part-time staff would have handled it that well." Um, But what was really cool when I was telling her about it is that I'm fortunate in the fact that even when an incident like that can occur in the workplace, which is unfortunate, nobody wants to deal with it. I deal with enough bullshit sometimes at my house. Um, you don't want to deal with that. I deal with enough little ogre assholes sometimes in my house here. I don't need to deal with it at uh, work too. But when it happens at work, it is nice to know that you can like come home, relax for a little bit, get something to eat, change, go back to work, work out, and have a really great night. So all in all, not too bad. And then my days off were really nice as well. Not a whole lot accomplished. Just got some reading done. Watched a few more episodes of Buffy and Angel. Doing a first watch on that. Not that that's really super important, but it is kind of cool. I've been enjoying it. My good friend Buck, you heard his beautiful voice at the beginning of the episode, was watching one day, and I think he was watching at work or something like that. And I was like, "You're watching Buffy at work?" And I was like, "All right." And we kind of started talking about it, and I'm like, "I'm going to check this out. I'm going to have to watch this. I never watched Buffy. And I honestly, like, some things I can say, like, oh, I never really watched that." But I can sit there and say, like, oh, I've seen an episode or two, or I know I've seen clips. I know the characters or what have you. I know going into Buffy has been a complete blind for me. Same with Angel. None of it. There's, you know, uh, no spoilers. Like I have no idea what's going on from week to week. I try not to read too much into it. I have gotten a little bit ahead of myself and found out some pretty sad news about some of my favorite characters. It looks like coming up in later closing out seasons. But man, what a cool show! And I'm kind of surprised that I didn't watch it more or at all. Um, just simply for the fact that it's like reading. Every time I watch an episode, I just want to go back and grab a stack of '90s like Image, Dark Horse, Top Cow comics and just sit back and go to town on them. It's such a comic booky show, but I'm finding myself getting really invested in the characters. There's some really great like father-daughter moments between, Buffy and the Watcher, and just some cool moments between the cast and the friends, and how they're more like family than just good friends at this point, and getting like emotionally invested, which was something I didn't expect to happen. I don't know why I'm like taking a twist onto it. I'm really going into this video kind of not anything scripted or really even any ideas. Sometimes I kind of jump in this with something. I just really wanted to get you guys a follow up and just kind of get you through the week with some video content. Um, but yeah, just spent my days off really just watching Buffy, and I've just been really enjoying it. It's just been a blast. A couple of coworkers have seen it, so it's been nice to get with them and talk with them about it. And um, I've got them watching one of my shows, and I'm watching one of their shows, and it's just been really cool to kind of go back and forth and have these really fun conversations. But it's amazing to me. Like I said, how I never really got into this. It's right in my wheelhouse. I'm kind of glad I didn't. It's fun to kind of come back and watch this now as an adult and just like really geek out on some Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And ironically, and like I didn't really think about this until last night, and I've been watching it now, like from my fifth season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And it's amazing like how much I find myself relating to Buffy, which is crazy. I remember like this, guy in my 40s relating to this like um, just out of high school, college aged vampire slayer. But it's true, like um, the overall sense of like doing good, doing right. She's got this power, this ability. She wants to use it to help people, but she doesn't really know and understand it herself, but she's expected to use it. Like she's expected to go out there and slay vampires, but she doesn't really understand like all the time what she's doing. Um, so much of what I do is like that too. You've got this kind of like this power to help people and go out there and do good and be just and everything, but you just don't always understand like what you're doing sometimes and how it all works. But you just know you got to go out there and just do your piece and show up. I talk about that all the time. Like that's like 90% of the show is like Buffy just showing up in a cemetery, just being there, being present, and taking out vampires to keep Sunnydale safe. Um, and then like the attention she gets, like it's so interesting. So often, like in other like superpowered shows, they try to keep it a secret, like who's doing all these things and who's the one going around saving everybody. But it's really quite clear throughout the entire thing, like she's the one doing it. She's the one saving everyone. She's the one putting her life on the line. And I loved. I think it was like the end of season 3. They had like a whole graduation thing going on, or maybe it was like prom. I can't remember. It was something they were doing like the end of the year, and yeah, I think it was. I think it was like the season 3 finale, and they did this like awards thing where like the entire class recognized her as like their class protector, and it was like it was never spoken on. It was never like hinted at that any of the students knew what she was doing, but you kind of got the idea. It's like, how is she doing all this without anybody like realizing what she's doing, like nobody can figure this out. Like nobody can tell Clark Kent is really Superman. And so they were kind of playing it that way. And then at the end, you realize, like, no, yeah, the whole town has known all along what she's been doing, and they actually like really appreciate her. And then they wound up like fighting alongside her at the end, and like taking down the big bad at the end of the episode with her help and everything. And it's just, I don't know, like there's just something about that too, like being recognized and like constantly being nominated for things at work, and people coming to me and realizing like he does the work, he can get this done. And I don't know, there's just something really interesting, and as I'm like watching the show, I was like, wow, I really do relate to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's really interesting. But it's really just a really cool show, and I've been really enjoying watching that. So if you're listening, Buck, thank you so much for turning me on to that show. It has been a blast. I had to watch an episode last night where they were doing like a back to back thing with Angel and Buffy where they were showing two points of view to like kind of like the origins of Spike, and I lost my shit. I thought it was just like was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. And then I find myself at the end of the episode like tearing up as Spike goes to kill Buffy, and he sees her all distraught on the back porch, and he sits down and just he's just a good friend to her, and I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? This is so beautiful. This is so cute, so sweet. It's so heartwarming, and again, it just reminds me of all the people that I know and that I work with, and they're just like, no matter if I'm having a bad day or if I'm not feeling great, like they're just always there. I mean, that's exactly what I felt like Sunday or Saturday was like, where I was just having this rough day, and um, like I have coworkers and stuff that are kind of that remind me of Spike, that remind me of like different people that we get along, but yet we argue with each other, or we're back and forth, or maybe we can't stand each other. But when they see that I'm upset or I'm having a rough day, it's like they're right there in my office, putting their hand on my shoulder, and it's just it really is amazing. So I guess that's kind of like um, the connection and the wraparound to all of that. It's just like um, that family, that being there for each other. It's like there's werewolves and vampire slayers and witches and all of these different things coming together, like demons and just ordinary teenage boys all hanging out together, trying to be like one big family. And it's just kind of like this thing where it's like it doesn't really matter where you're from or um, what you're into. If whatever it is, like there's kind of like a place for you in this little Scoobies, as they call themselves, this little Scoobies crew. And there's just something really really special about that. And like I said, I'm fortunate myself to be able to have that as well. Like that's um, it's very rare. Like I said, it's almost like something you would find in a TV show or something you would find in a movie where um, you're just that lucky to where you could have a bad day, turn around, go back to work, and turn it into a really really great day. Um, but yeah, so and then also too, like just some of the people that like the members and some of the people that like just come to my, or like I actually get the chance to like even hang out with them sometimes. Like I spent Monday morning hanging out with one of our members. He's been trying to get me to get with him. It's the same gentleman we've been talking about like religion and comics and how this all like connects. And we were finally able to get together on Monday and just kind of hang out and talk and kind of get a glimpse into each other's world. You got a chance to check out his place, and it's interesting. It's definitely like uh, to say softly, an interesting point of view to see how like the other side lives. Only because I mean that in the sense that we get so many complaints from time to time from members about like our cleanliness, or like if something's dirty or somebody left something somewhere, or they don't like this or this is weird. Um, you know, and people do some crazy things like old men are like washing their butts and their feet in the sinks and stuff, and it's just like, what is going on in here? Like, it's just, do you do this at home? Are you like shoving your ass up on the water faucet at the house and stuff like that? Like, what is going on here? Um, so there's like some pretty interesting thing, like ladies will come down. I was just in the studio and there's a dust bunny in the corner behind a rack of weights underneath of a piece of a mat, and it's just like, how did you see that? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm sure it is dusty. Like, nobody goes back behind the weight rack and pulls up the mats. Like, what are you talking about? So anyway, they just look at, but to see his place, and his place wasn't like filthy, but it was very interesting. I was kind of like, it's interesting, like the complaints we get, and some of the things I was seeing. I was like, I don't know if y'all should be complaining about our bathrooms. I just saw your bathroom. But no, anyway, he's a beautiful man. I love him to death, and we got a chance to sit down and just kind of hang out, and like I said, just kind of talk about different things. And I really would love to, and this is something like one of my like like higher up supervisors has caught wind of as well, is like putting together this group of individuals who want to talk about comic books and like religion, and not necessarily like any one religion, more of like a morality tale, and like how um, these stories are very much similar in terms of what they teach and the lessons you can learn from, not only Bible scripture, but from, even words of like Buddha and like, different, like even the Quran and like all these different books that are out there, all these different religions that teach these morale pieces, these good stories, all of these things. And comics and how it plays out in comic books and how you can find some of these same pieces relevant within stories of Superman and Spider-Man and all of that as well. And, really try to connect that um, spiritual piece and like a community piece and like have these conversations and just have fun with it, like it doesn't have to be anything like too serious and too deep. Somebody can sit back and talk about like, what I would love to do is to sit back and pull something out, um, like a quote from a Spider-Man book or a quote from like a Batman or something like that, that does have some kind of like spiritual or like some type of religious implications or inflection or something along those lines, and then say, okay, well then how does this relate to spiritual teachings, right? Like how does this then relate to what does this remind you of? Is there a verse or a chapter that this quote can also, because it's interesting, like it sounds silly. Some of these quotes can be something as simple as like, "Oh man, I pray I'm not too late." But some of them, like, they get very profound, like talking about sacrifice and giving up those things. And even though I feel like in the moment I might have been giving up those things for no reason, my losses have taken me to some place that I was destined to be. And like those are like kinds of like things and and ideas that are very deep, and it's like, wow, what else is there that reminds you of what we are talking about. And then there's like certain characters like Nightcrawler. I mean, he is a priest in the books. He's written to be a priest, and Daredevil um, is Catholic, and there's a lot of Catholic Church things that play out throughout these stories. So I think there's like a lot of room to do these things, but and talk about these like in a fun space. But I want to keep it lighthearted. I want to keep it fun. I don't want to get into like politics, religion, those sorts of things. I want to try to stay away from all that. I know a lot of times too when it comes to like sexual orientation, like religion can have like some kind of negative tones and condescending attitudes and things like that. I just don't want to bring that into the fold. I want to try to keep everything open for everybody, regardless of what you believe in. And I've always hated, and not to say that like I enjoy I read like different Pride and Celebration books from DC and Marvel all the time, and I really do enjoy them now more than I did when they first started coming out. I really do feel like that when they first came out, there was more just like a way to kind of like cash in on more books or something like that. But as the stories have opened and the books have come out each year, I mean they've really gotten some fun and some really cool stories put into these different books. But I always just found it so interesting because growing up, and it's easy for me to say straight white male. Maybe the reason why I was attacked, Saturday, and just kind of like this guy gave me all this attitude. It's just it could be something as simple as just how I'm seen in the world right now. It's just it is what it is. But um, I just growing up, I never. And again, this is me taking this for granted. The fact that basically all comic book heroes are fashioned after me. It's like Green Lantern, Batman, Superman, the Flash. They're all white, straight males. Middle aged in their 30s or 40s or whatever that looks like. And it's just like what like what do you do if you are like a black person or a gay person or a young gay black woman? Like it's just like there's no book out there for you to really read and to get into. You kind of have to like dive into X-Men and just kind of find like some of these um, characters that deal with like prejudice and discrimination within those books. If you you know, and it's just like, but there's not really like a character that you can identify with. Um, and now I feel like there are tons of characters out there for regardless of who you are and who you're into, your skin color, your background, your culture. Like there's heroes for everybody today, and I think that's amazing. But it's just like sexual orientation never popped into my head when I was reading Spider-Man. Um, and like even the idea of like him and Mary Jane like fooling around, like it just never popped into, like it was never anything. I was like a 12, 13-year-old boy reading Spider-Man comics, and what went on between the bedroom just it didn't seem to factor in. It was one of those things like um, it's like, oh, your parents have sex or what, but you don't want to think about it. You don't like sit around and going like, oh, and that was the same thing with Spider-Man. Like, when you're closing the book and you're sitting down at the end of the day, I don't think anybody was really sitting down. I mean, maybe some people were, I don't know. But for me, it was just never really about. I mean, Mary Jane was always drawn like beautifully and hot, like super sexy. Even today, I find the way she's drawn like super amazingly hot and sexy. But again, it was just like I never. Um, I don't even know how I even got into this whole top, but I never like just looked at the orientation of um, characters and what their preferences was, or whether they were gay or straight. And so I kind of want to keep that out of. I guess that's where this is going, out of these topics and these talks. Um, and then also like I heard something recently, and it was a religious person, kind of like in a very condescending way, like talking about gay people and like just how it's not right, it's not natural, and all these things. And I started thinking, like, I don't know. I feel like it's like the most natural love. Like, I know I've said this before in another video, but I feel like it's the most natural and most powerful kind of love because isn't that what love is about? Like being with somebody and being committed to them through any adversity, any obstacle, anything that might stand in your way. And when you have like a whole society like fighting, and not a whole, I mean, you got people like rallying behind you too, but like, for the most part, you got like a whole society and religious groups and political groups and all of these people with agendas coming after you for like how and who you love. And you're still able to prevail and be with those people that you want to be with and have those relationships that you want to have, and go to bed at the end of the night with that person is pretty amazing. It's pretty powerful, and I think that's like, again, like, I mean, that's like the truest, most powerful kind of love right there. I mean, like that is I think what everybody. I mean, again, like me, it's like, again talking about Buffy. Like Buffy struggles with like relationships and love and all that things. That's like something that I clearly, even to this day, struggle with myself. And I just find it amazing that like regardless of what your orientation is, if you can find somebody and be happy with them, like it's just an amazing thing, man. It's just like I said, we already have, like I said, just, so much hate, so much crap going on in the world. Like I said, I don't know what this guy's problem with me was over the weekend. Like why, he felt I was giving him some kind of attitude when, like, generally I was just trying to help, like just coming from a just straight genuine place, just like just wanting to help this guy. Um, so it's like you have to be more accepting and more tolerant because like there's just too much of it already, already out there. And if if we feed into it and we keep is that a bowl of onions on my, or is that perp? What the? I'm sorry. But yeah, if we just allow ourselves, I think that's like a bowl of onions, like red onion. But yeah, if we just like allow ourselves to like get sucked into, like I said, that's why I kind of like just walked away from that dude the other day. Like I just couldn't allow myself to get sucked into an argument and just like negative um, attitude, and just like sometimes you just kind of have to like um, just kind of like laugh these things off. But at the same time, I think we also just have to do a better job at just being better people from time to time. My supervisor yesterday, we did a really cool piece in a meeting, which was really nice. Like my staff and I just had a meeting, and I worked really hard on it. They My supervisor really liked what it is, so they wanted me to kind of share some of that in our meeting yesterday. And then we did a couple of exercises that he shared with me, and just kind of with like the rest of our full-time staff. But it was kind of like drawing out how we see things where we are now with where we work and what we're doing, and then like drawing an image of like where we want to see things. And I think the biggest thing that I took away from that is that we as people, we have common sense, and I know not everybody has like a clear-cut common sense that the next person has, the same common sense and all of that. But I think for the most part, we know right from wrong. We know what's good. We know what's right. We know this is bad. And my alarm's going off. I got to wrap this up. We can identify it. We can see it. Like when something's not right, we can see it. We can identify it. And then it's up to us, I guess, to choose to do something about it or ignore it, right? But in this exercise, we were also able to kind of like draw out like what we want, where we want to go, how we want things to be. And I'm talking so much with my hands right now; it's hilarious. But drawing that out is again something you're able to see. Like you can visualize it. I think I smacked the microphone. You can visualize it, and you can identify it again. It's something you can identify. You might not necessarily be able to put your hands on it, but you can visualize it. You know what it is. You know if it's right or if it's wrong, right? So, in that, being able to identify where we are now and seeing things where we want them to be, it's kind of like making those steps and like what can you do yourself to get there? Um, and so that's kind of like the same with like anything in life. Like you can identify where you are in life, what's wrong in life, what's right, your eating habits, your drinking habits, everything, and make those corrections or not. And so that's kind of like I said, what I saw, what I took away from it, and I don't know, maybe hopefully maybe what you can take away from this video. Like I said, this video, I'm going to go ahead and load up the one. I didn't even get the other video loaded up, so I'm going to go ahead and load that one up, and then you'll get this one here a little bit later on today. But um, yeah, maybe that's just something to think about. Like if there's something that you want to change or something you want to make better, identify it, look at it, make the changes. You as an adult, you as a person can see these things and can make those conscious decisions to do better. Well, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun. I just kind of like literally jumped into this right before work, got up, made some coffee, and hopped in here with you guys just to kind of hang out, talk a little bit, and kind of give you a couple of pieces to chew through as we get through this hump day. Anyway, guys, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Hope you guys have been enjoying this month so far. Can't believe we're already in March. It's so crazy. Make sure you smash that like, subscribe, share, comment down below, all that jazz. And until next time, don't spend that quarter. Oh, yeah, no, 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 no. Take care of yourself, take care of each other. And until next time, don't spend that quarter anywhere else. Jeez, Rob, get it together.